This is Tuna on Toast.
I cleaned the house before the guests arrived. What the hell are you doing, man? I love this product. I wish they were a sponsor. I'm addicted to this thing. It's how I pick up all of his dust balls. All right, my prediction is, and I don't think this is a tough one, Davey's favorite book of these four will be the ministry book. There's also a Jim Henson book, Let There Be Gwar, and then Tom of Finland. There you go. You know he's gonna say this one. See the guitars back there? My AFI guitar. I love this thing. All right, I'm gonna put it back on the wall. Guys, this is... No! Now that a fire inside is lit. Actually, there he is right now. Yes. Davey. This should be him. Got the yeah! Oh my God, I can't believe Davey Havok is at the house. Hello.
Hi, my friend.
Thank you so much for coming. So I was thinking,
Okay.
before we go in the studio,
Wait, let me take off my sunglasses.
all right. Before we go into the Tuna on Toast studio, Avocado on Toast studio.
Avocado toast.
Oh my God, I would love one of those.
Well, I'm just getting there.
Okay, thank you. By the way, hold on one sec. Hold on. Think on that. Hold on. Oh. Are you eating these?
Wow. Great minds, as they say.
Yes. I thought we should sit by the fire.
Let's
And
discuss literature.
speaking of reading, so I made a prediction on something before you got here.
Okay.
We keep 4 books there. It's the one that I chose that I think you would want to read to me or read yourself.
This is interesting.
We've got the ministry book.
Well, are you okay?
We've got the Jim Henson book, Let There Be Gwar. And then this book, it's the Tom of Finland.
Tom of Finland.
Yes. So I already predicted which book you would choose.
It's tough. I have an entry in that ministry book, I believe, or is that the Al autobiography?
This is the Al Jorgensen. I think this is.
Okay.
I don't.
Yeah, I think I have an entry in that
In
book.
the-
Does it have quotes? from
Yes,
it?
it has quotes in here.
So I'm in there.
You are? Oh.
So Roger made that book about Gwar. He makes great books like that. Obviously, Tom of Finland, we all know who that is.
Yes.
So I don't have a direct connection with Tom of Finland, but I wish I did. A young man at Brain Dead was wearing a Tom of Finland t-shirt the other day, and we had a conversation about it. And then, of course, there's the book I'm picking, which is the Muppets book.
Let me tell you.
Did we do it? Is it just like our pecans?
No.
No, I'm sorry, I betrayed you.
That's what you're picking, the Jim Henson. The works.
Yeah, I figure it's possibly of my reading level. The rest.
Thank you. I thought you would like this. Okay, so we are going to. We're getting rid of this cockamamie bird.
We love the captain?
Yeah, I love the captain.
I mean, yeah.
yeah,
Peace.
that's a cell.
From one of the commercials.
Yeah, from way back in the.
Oh
God, I
so
don't know what
cool.
decade
I don't know,
offhand.
70s, 80s, 60s.
I think
honestly,
it's
it
late
looks,
60s.
I was gonna say, honestly, it looks more 60s.
Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Tuna on Toast. I am so excited that the guest is here in my house hanging out. Of course, you know him from AFI, Blaqk Audio, Dreamcar. He's written a couple novels and can do 570 push-ups a day. Davey Havok
In a day.
in a day.
Through the span of a day.
570.
Probably. Maybe more.
Is that right?
I don't recommend it, though. I eventually harmed myself in a very unique way. Like, I pulled something in my throat.
Is that real?
Yeah, I think so. That's what we finally discovered.
Recently.
During quarantine from, I believe, excessive push-ups.
Okay, hold on a minute here.
So
hold
let's,
on a
let's
minute.
start there.
So it's quarantine.
Also, the show is called today.
Avocado on Toast.
Thank you.
And just so you know, Davey, I reached out to get a whole new sign made that said Avocado on Toast. But here's what happened. Unfortunately, to get the same sign and the same look, it was $400 and
We
something
can't do
dollars.
that.
And I
We
wanted,
can't do that.
I know it should
I'm
be
not worth
avocado on
400
toast.
in
No, yes
prizes.
you are. Yes,
No.
you are.
We
Yeah.
can't do that.
But yes, today
I would have felt terrible, but that thought means a lot.
it is
That's
avocado
really
on
fun.
toast today. And I also told you before we walked in here that this house is probably, I think it's right around a 65% vegan household.
Yes,
and
I love
at some
that.
point, I think it'll be 100.
I got you.
But we got a ways to go till we get there.
Let's
but
do it.
We're way over 50%.
I'm here to help.
Okay.
Whatever those ways are, I can help you
All right.
overcome them.
All right. Hold on. I got to get to the
Okay.
quickly here with the throat thing. So you're working out during quarantine. You're doing push-ups. When did you realize there was something going on in your throat? When you tried to sing?
There was an issue being that it was concurrent with something else that actually was happening to my vocal cords. So I thought they were the same thing. They ended up being independent and pretty boring. But my voice was also weak at the time, which I believe, in summation, was due to really just latency. Just because I wasn't speaking,
Right.
or I was quiet. I was by myself and locked down and not speaking a lot, not singing a lot. So maybe that was what happened to my vocal cords. Vocal cords are great. We couldn't figure out what would happen to cause this. It felt like when you would swallow, there was like a cherry pit.
Okay.
Not like you feel when you have a sore throat,
Mhm.
but like something was stuck in your throat. Like Daddy's voice, like Morrissey sang. And I believe I felt it the very first time mid rep, and I thought I was like, oh, I'm getting a little sick because it was a swallow. It's a swallow, and it's not this or this or this.
Okay.
It was a swallow, and it took months and months and months
I'm
and months
so
and months.
sorry.
No, it was just annoying. It wasn't
No,
terrible.
but didn't you go down the rabbit hole? On the
I did
internet?
go down the rabbit
Of
hole.
course.
Oh, I didn't go
What
on
a
the internet.
mind
I went
F
in an
that is.
MRI. I went through all the
Oh.
doctors trying to figure out what was going on, and no one was certain. But the best theory was that it was a muscular pull, like a Charlie horse. But I feel it was more of a pull, knowing how pulls heal and knowing how Charlie horses are healed by kneading them out, and that didn't work. So that's so boring.
No, it's not.
Thank you.
I'm really sorry that happened.
No, it's all right.
Are you 100% healed from that?
That doesn't hurt anymore. My voice is great. I went to my vocal coach for some exercises. I now do. My life has changed because I'm so obsessive, and obviously it's my voice, which is a huge part of my entire life.
Yes,
Even
I
when
would
I'm
say
not
yes.
professionally do it, I'm singing all the time, and as you know, I'm talking all the time. And my vocal cords one of the cords wouldn't react properly. So vocal cords are like this, and when you make a sound, they do this. Stryker probably knows this from his job.
Yes.
And one of them, the right cord, was just a little slow, causing my voice to be kind of warbly, kind of the effect of a baby deer type shaky sound. Traumatizing, but I rehabbed it by way of doing vocal exercises that strengthen it, and I was doing those twice a day until it got better, which took about 6 weeks. It was fine.
That's a long time.
It's
to get
a
better.
long time.
When your moneymaker is your voice,
it was stressful.
and your face, yours in particular, because it's beautiful.
I appreciate
and
that.
then
It once was.
one of them is not going great. That just had to be, again, as I said, a mind F. But I'm glad you've
It was
100%
stressful,
healed.
but now
Yes,
I do it every morning upon waking.
the push-ups or the vocal
The
exercises.
vocal exercises.
Can you
Later
give me an
than
example of a vocal exercise, or will it hurt you right now?
No, they're very common vocal exercises. It's just a pattern of doing them. One that I didn't normally do is a hung, and holding it, or holding burbles longer. Just holding it. You singers have done this.
That's great.
But I do it for an hour. I wake up and I turn on the exercises, and I do it every day now because I'm obsessive, because I'm thinking, well, it's not going to hurt to make my voice stronger every day, or to make sure it stays at this place.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So listen, as we are sitting here today,
Yes.
luckily your voice is great, you look great, everything's great. We're a few weeks away from a New Year's Eve Blaqk Audio
I'm
show.
so excited.
Wait a minute. When is the last time you've performed singing in any band on stage?
Ramones X.
Oh, Halloween.
So it was
Right,
the Halloween
right.
season, but it was early October.
Yes.
And
That's right.
Prior to that, I hadn't performed since AFI played the final show of the Smashing Pumpkins tour in 2018, summer of 2018, which honestly, traditionally, it's not that strange for me to go that long without being on stage. But as we talked about earlier, because of the pandemic, we also weren't recording music or writing music.
Right.
I wasn't. So I wasn't singing that. Actually, I was writing some other music, but not a ton of it, not how we normally behave. So that aspect was different. But having not been on stage that long, it got to be close to the most amount of time I've been without being on stage performing. But I'll tell you, it was so fun to perform with Ramon's acts.
I saw some of the videos online, and it looked great, and it sounded great. How many rehearsals have you and Jade had for the New Year's Eve show? More than 0. Oh, 0. Okay.
0. But that's okay. Fear not. We've agreed upon a set.
You have? So you've gotten emails or texts?
So
back and
Blaqk
forth?
Audio rehearses separately. We don't need to really rehearse together. I can rehearse those songs on my own, and we usually get together once before Blaqk Audio goes on tour.
You're a guy that is, you like to make sure things are ready to go.
Yeah.
You get yourself ready by doing these vocal exercises.
Yeah.
But you rehearse on your own. Jade not in the room before these shows?
Yeah.
For Blaqk Audio?
It works. We've always done it that way because aside from there being any sort of technical difficulties with the production, with the sound, by the time Jade and I get together, we both know it. And in the case of this set list and this New Year's Eve, there's only a handful of songs that we haven't performed before. Very, very few. So there's muscle memory there, and there's sense memory there with so many songs that it doesn't take long for us to refresh, for me to refresh my memory on those songs. And so I listened to the whole set today while I'm at the gym, and it's very active listening. I have to actually sometimes pause the music so I don't harm myself lifting weights for not being mindful of what my body's doing,
right? Because
I'm being mindful of, the timing and, the lyric or the melody or whatever aspect of the song I need to refresh.
Wow. That is so cool to know that while you're at the gym, you're listening to the set list. And
I've written songs at the gym.
Is that right?
Countless times.
And now when you say you're writing songs at the
lyrics.
Gym, right. But are you saying, are you going into your phone, giving a line and saving it?
I'm typing them. So
you are.
So typically it'll happen on cardio when I'm in a flow state, or I'll be pressed for time and I'll know that I can finish these lyrics at the gym, or again, I'm unfortunately obsessive. I'll just be struck with an alteration I need to make or the right word for a certain part, and I'll just do it in the middle. Sometimes at that point, if I'm lifting weights, I'll move to cardio because I know I can walk upstairs and get this out at the same time. Or
that's so. When I'm doing something like this with you today, or if I'm doing another interview, and for me, it's like the biggest thing. Oh my God, I better do it. I'll be in the shower, and 20, 30 minutes, 40 minutes goes by. I don't even realize it. I'm thinking about preparing.
Right.
What are the highlights? What are the bullet points?
Right.
What's the tone? What's everything? And that's
because you care so much.
I do.
Which shows.
I do.
Which has always shown.
Thank you.
In how good you are.
Thank you,
shows through,
Davey.
and you being the best. And we're the same in that regard.
For sure.
We have so much in common.
We do.
Mr. Stryker.
I know, Mr. Havok. Where is the New Year's Eve show, the Blaqk Audio show?
So the New Year's Eve show is at Pico Union Project, it's called. It looks beautiful. I've never been there before. I've heard of it. The first I heard of it, there's a band called Ritual Howls. I believe they're from the South. Forgive me, you guys, if you're not. But they're a really cool, bleak guitar-based sounding post-punk band that I really enjoy, and they went and played there and I had no idea, and I saw a woman wearing their shirt at a club once. I'm like, where'd you get that shirt? She's very intoxicated, and she articulated to me that she saw them at this Jewish community center. I believe it's a community center. It has stained glass in it, which I didn't think was historically part of Judaism. I always attribute that to Catholicism.
Right.
It's beautiful, and I'm really looking forward to it. The Blaqk Audio shows are always such a good time. It's such a different vibe because it's Blaqk Audio is more celebratory of life than other projects that I am in, and it's perfect for New Year's Eve. It's such a great celebration, and Blaqk Audio is the only act that I've been in that has performed multiple times on New Year's Eve. AFI played a couple of songs once on MTV on New Year's Eve, or maybe two songs in Times Square on TV. It was 2 songs.
Was it fun doing that?
Yeah, it was
AFI?
very, very
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah,
very
that had to
fun.
be great.
That was great. But as far as actual shows and live performances, Blaqk Audio played on New Year's Eve in San Francisco at a place called Mezzanine, I believe, which was a really cool club. And to tell you what year it was, Katy Perry opened.
Okay, so this had to be. You've put out 5 Blaqk Audio albums.
Yeah, and
that's
we're
amazing.
We were close to being finished with the 6th, and we're still working on it.
Okay.
But we're
So Sex Cells. Let's see that. So that's 2007. So this must have been 2007 or 8 range. My guess.
I think that's exactly what it was. Yeah, it was. I think it was maybe 8 to 9 or 7 to 8.
Okay, yeah.
And Katy Perry had maybe kissed a girl at that point.
She sent us chapstick, by the way, when "Kissed a Girl" came out. And
Oh,
not
cherry
many
chapstick.
people knew. Yes, and she sent us all with her name on it at K-Rock. She sent us all chapstick,
She's just
and she went from
very sweet
someone in
woman.
the very sweet, the
Yeah.
alternative world, and then exploded into the
Yeah.
mainstream. But still, I think has an attitude that I'm very much in favor of.
I agree.
I like her a lot.
She's very nice to me. I'm a super fan.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I
So
became-
wait, when did you cross paths?
We've
At that show?
Well, at that
Only?
no, actually, we didn't even meet at that show. And I'm trying to think when I first. I honestly don't know when I first crossed paths with her.
Was she a fan of the band?
I don't think so.
Fan of your style, I'm sure.
I don't think so. She's just nice. She's like, oh, this is cute.
I don't think she goes up to everybody and has a conversation.
This strange man. Oh, she's not coming up to me and having a conversation. I'm punishing her. But she's always been very nice to me. She I is at least a vegan sympathizer. I would often see her at Crossroads later on, but I don't know. But when we run into each other, she's always, I'll go to her show and say hi to her. And there was this moment in Oakland once where I was wearing this raspberry red Marc Jacobs suit, and I went to the floor to watch her, and it was the end of the set, and I was audience left, stage right, and this was the tour where she had the foam gun.
Oh, right. Yes. Yes.
And suddenly
No.
foam is being shot everywhere. And
You have the Marc Jacobs suit on?
she has the gun, and Katie beelines stage right and is firing this gun at me. I'm in a panic, just scuttling backwards, squealing.
God.
And she says in her Paula Abdul mic, "You're at a Katy Perry show now, bitch."
Talking to you?
I don't know. It felt that way to me.
Of course you were wearing that suit.
I feel like everyone's talking to me.
Have you ever been on one of those like People Magazine best dressed list or anything?
Absolutely not.
Why
They
are
have
you
to know
not-
who you are to be in that magazine.
You're selling yourself so short right now. I took a friend of mine to a Blaqk Audio show in Vegas. He's not really a music fan. He's a professional poker player, Phil Locke.
We had a good time.
Yes.
Yes.
He still talks about that show.
Wow.
His girlfriend is Jennifer Tilly.
Yes.
So,
of course.
yes,
Crash.
yes, yeah.
And I'll tell you, the first time I saw Jennifer Tilly, it's wild. I don't know if you're going to remember this. Most people don't. Key West.
Is that a...
Key West was a short-lived series in the
Okay.
80s about one of the Key West islands. I was very young, and Jennifer Tilly, I believe, played a sex worker on the island, and there was like voodoo elements, I think, but it was, I barely remember it, but I feel like I watched the whole single season that ever aired on TV, whatever year
You were the
it
fan
was.
of that show.
And that was the first time I'd seen Jennifer Tilly, and then later Crash, and then, but not in Vegas.
She's so nice. Yeah, that show was really, really fun. Are there any shows you've watched over the last 2 years?
Television shows.
Yeah.
I don't watch TV very much, but it just so happens that some very good friends of mine really, really, really encouraged me to watch 2 shows.
Okay.
Enough so that one I watched on tour when I was out with the Pumpkins over the course of like one day off. I just watched the whole show, and that was the first season of Euphoria, which I loved.
Okay, right.
And they were correct. And then the other was recently. It was White Lotus.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which I really enjoyed as well. A little lighter than
Pineapple Sweet.
Wow.
What the hell, Davey?
Wow.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's a good time.
Yes.
So I've heard that there's going to be another season of that, which I really look forward to.
The acting was so good.
Superb.
In that show.
Superb. Every actor. Superb.
A++ for
Superb.
everybody.
Great writing.
Yeah.
Beautifully shot. Gets a little on the nose, but I mean, hey.
Yeah.
Some people, you got to say it to them directly.
That's
I
right.
never do.
Right.
I never do.
All right, Davey, I have so many questions now about all the projects you have done. I think that you are underrated in a way in terms of like how much material you have given to the world over the last 30 years. AFI, at least you and Adam at AFI,
Yeah.
30 years, and there's 11 studio albums, maybe 10 EPs, and then you got the 5 Blaqk Audio albums, soon possibly a 6th soon, and then the Dreamcar and the novels and the clothing.
Extremist.
Is it
Trying to
that
think
you
of what else.
are you afraid?
Son of Sam. Have you heard of that?
No.
There's another one.
Oh my God.
I made a record
Wait,
with a group called Son of Sam,
when was that?
which was put together by Todd Youth, rest in peace. Todd, who was in Agnostic Front and Murphy's Law and the beloved New York band D-Generation. And he was playing in Samhain, aka Samhain, on the tour that AFI did with them and Danzig. And the members of Samhain wanted to put together a band with me singing and call it Son of Sam. Very cheeky. And they asked me to sing, and I said, does Glenn know about this? And they said, yeah, he's cool with it. In fact, he's going to play some keyboards on it or something.
Whoa.
And so we wrote and recorded a record in maybe 2000s. Yeah. So there's another one.
Do you constantly work because you're afraid of not being on people's mind and they're going to be like, where's Davey Havok? Or do you work because you just can't believe you get this opportunity? What makes you tick with never just kicking your feet up, really, and sitting on the beach in Brazil?
It's I enjoy kicking my feet up. I really do. In fact, the quiescence of the quarantine was something that I really embraced. I'm inspired to create by life and by living, and that's actually the answer to the question. You could call it solipsism. I'm very inclined to express my feelings, and I love art so much. And since I was very young, I've had that drive to participate in the creation of art because it moves me so much, and the artists that I love are so important to me. I'm inspired to create myself.
You knew that early on that arts was your thing, like when you were 10 years old, or was it more like 18
I don't think I was
years
so
old?
conscious of that language, but yeah, I started listening to music when I was so young. My grandfather sang to me. My mom and dad would sing. No one was a professional musician, but I got my first. For my 5th birthday, I asked for an AC/DC record. It happened to be the year that Back in Black came out.
Oh my
This is in Rochester, New York, and when my grandmother took me to the House of Guitars in Irondequoit, which is still there, and that was the year Back in Black came out. So I got Back in Black, and from there I went. MTV later happened, and Friday Night Videos, and.
But why did you gravitate towards a certain kind of music? Did you love, Spice Girls and Backstreet Boys, or was it Danzig, Misfits? How did you know?
My trajectory really was, I was so young when I began listening to music that it was just informed by what was the most popular music. It was informed by pop culture, and AC/DC
Right.
was and is gigantic.
Yes.
And that had an allure to it and a an otherness and a dangerousness to it for a child. And then shortly thereafter, with the British invasion in the United States and MTV, and Duran Duran and Devo and Cyndi Lauper
Oh
and
my
Madonna
God, I loved every
and,
one of
and-
those on MTV.
you know, and Human League and
love.
Alphaville. I mean,
Yes.
it's all of that was
Flock of
as you know,
Seagulls.
Flock of Seagulls in the hair, and so that the aesthetic of it and the sound of it and that it was so huge really impacted me as a young person, as many young people get into whatever it is that they're into because it's what's they're presented. And but I will say that as far as punk rock goes, and moving from the mainstream alternative, which
Right.
I mean, it wasn't
It was like
really
new
alternative.
wave,
It was
mainstream alternative with some of
yeah.
those bands we just
Living in
mentioned.
California, I feel it felt more mainstream than it probably was across the United States.
Right.
I mean, I didn't have K-Rock at the time. I was getting in all of that. I was in Sacramento, but I think there was a very strong alt station in Sacramento at the time.
Okay.
Plus, there were Friday night videos and whatnot. But the mall punks, I would see them and I was enamored. I was just enamored of the big hair and the strange symbols painted on the leather jackets and the lunch boxes and everything about the look I just thought was beautiful. And that's what I wanted to look like them. And I wanted to know about what they were into. And I wanted to know, what that skinny puppy symbol meant or that dead Kennedy symbol meant. And, symbols are very powerful, as you can see in many facets of cultures, especially art. And then being a skateboarder, having gotten into skateboarding and Thrasher magazine, skateboarding and punk rock went very hand in hand at the time, and I was educated about punk rock through the Pus Zone and was it called Random Notes? There were a couple of sections in Thrasher that were dedicated to music at that time, and before punk rock, it was it was when I was listening to The Cure and Culture Club and
Yes. What's so cool about so many of the things you just said, when I was that age and I would see punk rockers, I rode the public bus to school, I would see some on the bus or at the mall, I had a reaction that I wish it would have been better back then. I was a little bit scared
right,
and thrown off.
right.
And the things I were into was not necessarily the arts, but I love competition.
What?
So yes.
Get out.
So if there was a game,
Interesting.
no matter what it was, I had to be involved in it. So every single sports league I was in, and while I was not, the best in the leagues or anything, I loved the competition.
Wow.
And just that, like, being part of this team and trying to build it. Yeah, it was. But I kind of looking back, it was maybe just the way I ticked then or my surroundings, but I kind of wish, and I talked to Brett Gerwitz in here, and he mentioned that same thing that you did. He gravitated towards that. There were like 6 kids at his school that were punk rockers. Like, we're going to be punk rock. And then he was like, an outcast, and he said he was a loser in school and all that kind of stuff.
Wow.
Yeah. Man.
I'm shocked to hear about the competition because as you and I relate on so many things, I am non-competitive.
But don't you have to be competitive with I mean, I'm competitive with myself maybe more than anything, though.
Yes, but it's about, to me, I mean, the word competitive implies winning and losing to me. And that's never been something that's appealed to me. Yes, I am in competition with myself it's not even a competition. I'm inclined and inspired and have a need to create something that I enjoy, that I'm happy with.
Right.
And as time goes on, there is a wealth of past that confronts me that makes that more and more difficult, but it's not a competition with the past, and it's not creating something necessarily better or more winning than the past. It's something that is relevant to me and something that I am happy with and I am proud of, no matter what that thing is, and with complete disregard for any sort of external reward.
Right.
Reward in the competitive sense.
Yes.
Like,
okay, that makes sense.
Do not get me wrong. If AFI has a #1 record, or if Blaqk Audio suddenly has, I don't know, what is it now?
3 or 4 in a row, #1 in the dance charts with Blaqk Audio, the dance Billboard stuff.
When that happens, I'm excited. I think that's great, but I have never been competitive.
I love games.
I love games.
I love
but I don't care if I lose.
I guess I care if I lose, but I'm not a sore loser.
Okay. I mean, yeah, I guess I don't I mean, yeah, I want to win. If
Like
you play,
if
you have to want to win a little bit to play. If you
yes.
don't want to win at all, then
Yes.
then who cares? Then it's no fun.
Right.
Of course, I'd like to win, but if I don't win, oh well.
So you go
We're
from
not
the
throwing
East
the-
Coast
Yeah.
with family. Then
Yeah.
you guys go to Sacramento.
Mm-hmm.
And then what led you to Ukiah?
So my mom met my dad in Sacramento, and he got a job in this tiny town called Laytonville, tinier than Ukiah, California, which is a very, very small town in Mendocino County, which is where people used to have to go for their drugs before they could just go next door.
Wow.
And
What's the population? Like 15,000
Yeah.
in Ukiah?
I don't know what it is now. But my father got a job in Laytonville, which was a town that had maybe a gas station and one like burger shack, whereas Ukiah had 4 gas stations and a 4-screen movie theater, to give you an idea of where we were. And so we lived in that town, which was the capital of Mendocino County, while my dad would commute an hour back and forth from Laytonville. Laytonville, you're familiar with Lookout Records, Stryker?
Yes, of course.
Laytonville is where Lookout Records started.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. And you probably know that Trey Cool of Green Day
Yes.
is from Willits, right? And I think that, so Willits is an itty bitty town just south of Laytonville between Ukiah. Between Ukiah and Laytonville, Willits. But that's how we ended up. That's how I ended up in Ukiah. I was devastated. Moving to Ukiah from Sacramento felt like moving to the Ozarks from Manhattan.
Because of you were losing friends, or because there was
I was
not a lot going on there?
Yeah, I was losing record stores. I was losing
Oh,
theaters. I was losing shows, live music, all of those things that were and still are very important to me. However, had I not been there, I wouldn't be right here.
That's right.
Yeah.
Because that's where you meet Adam Carson.
That's where I met Adam Carson. That's
Right.
where I met Mark Blackwelder and Vic Chalker. Well,
Yes.
Victor Kenyon is Vic Chalker's actual name. Mark Astopheles, as many people know Mark, the
Right.
original members of
Yes.
AFI. Mark
He
Astopheles,
runs like
of
a
course.
bicycle career or something?
Did he?
I
Is
think-
he a
I
pro
don't know if
cyclist?
he's a
I know
pro.
he's Yeah, Mark was always one of those people who, whatever he got into, he really focused on it and he excelled at it. Which is why we were able to do AFI, because none of us knew how to play our instruments, with the exception of Adam. He'll say he couldn't, but he could a little, as opposed to zero, which was the ability of Mark and Vic. And then I could sing a little. That's why I ended up being a singer, as you probably know the tale.
So was that
choir
15
boy.
years old, 14 years old?
15, yeah.
And Nick 13 is in your town as well, isn't
So Nick
he?
13 was in that town, and
From Tiger Army. Everyone knows Nick 13, Tiger Army.
for Nick 13 from Tiger Army was in that town. Jade Puget was in that town. The first AFI 7-inch was a split with Jade's band that he was in at the time, called Loose Change, because we pooled our money to enable to be able to press 200 records.
Right, yeah.
And yeah, and you said Aaron Rodgers was there, and
Aaron
Phoebe
Rodgers was there for a bit, and Phoebe Bridgers, I think, spent some time in that
It's
town.
so strange because I ended up meeting Aaron Rodgers, but not from that.
You met Aaron Rodgers from the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, he's
Where did you
really,
meet Aaron Rodgers?
He's really nice. And he's a vegan sympathizer, and he was friends with someone who works for AFI, a couple people who
Okay.
work with AFI. And coincidentally, literally randomly, those two friends of mine who work for AFI and I had a day off in Hawaii, and we were in a smoothie store, some sort of like health shack.
Okay.
And they're talking to this guy, and they introduced me, and it's Aaron Rodgers. And at the time, he's very famous to anyone else in the world, but
Right.
I don't know who that is. So they explained to me, oh, he's this person. And he said, did he go to UC Berkeley as well? I think he did.
He did.
Okay, so he's like, I went to UC Berkeley, and my dorm mate had your poster on the wall, so I was staring at you all the time.
No way.
Yeah, and then I'd
Wow.
run into him at the same vegan restaurant, Crossroads, where I'd see Katy Perry.
Yes.
And he came to see AFI on the Blood tour down in San Diego. yeah, he's a nice guy. But I didn't know him from back there. And then Phoebe, I just recently found out, who I don't know, who I had this great experience with Phoebe the other day. Apparently I've met her, but here's the
I love Davey Havok.
and the first
God.
name basis is completely inappropriate, as you will see by where this story goes. The first part of this story is my good friend Leah was doing her makeup on a shoot. In my mind, I've never met her, but we have mutual friends, and Leah texts me from the photo shoot, and I forget that she's on this shoot, so it's kind of out of nowhere. One day she texts me and she says, "So Phoebe Bridgers has met your mother." And that's strange. That's strange.
Is your mom still in Ukiah?
No, she's not, but she's in an even smaller town.
Okay.
So it's strange. And I had no backstory on Phoebe Bridgers at this time. I'd seen her on Saturday Night Live. I had heard things about her, about how great she seems, like her politics and, you know, her voice, both metaphorically and literally.
Yes.
And so I knew things about her, and all the things were always good, and I was confused. And I said, what, how? And it turns out that, and my friend's trying to garner this information from Leanne from Phoebe while she's doing her makeup. And it turns out that Phoebe, I guess she lived in Ukiah, Stryker?
Don't quote me on that. I think she may have lived there for a short time.
Like a week or something.
I don't know the length of time. I don't want Phoebe Bridgers to start screaming at me.
What I didn't understand was how, because it's such a small town, how that wouldn't be celebrated so much for such a successful, commercially successful and artistically successful young lady to have had any relation to that town, and for there not to be skywriting about it.
I feel that way about your band though in that town.
Well, thank you.
Honestly, a 30-year career,
I
AFI
appreciate
with
that.
11 incredible albums,
I
and people
appreciate that.
give a damn about you.
It's true, and 30 years in, to have people care at all. I was thinking about it this morning as I was getting ready for the gym. It's such a privilege because of what we were talking about before. It means so much to me because I'm going to be doing this no matter what. I have to do it, and I'll be doing it. And I'll tell you, creating things with the prospect of people being able to receive it and possibly enjoy it and appreciate it on whatever level, versus creating in a void, is such a starkly different circumstance. And I'm so grateful to have a community of people out there for 30 years who care about what we have to say, like to care about what we do. It's so rare at any level. And I'm so grateful. So thank you. Whoever's watching this, thank you.
Whoever's watching this, I thank you as well.
Yeah, we both thank you. I mean, whoever's watching this, and for whatever reason you're watching it, it's such a privilege, and I really appreciate that. And 30 years, it's shocking as we're in this 30-year anniversary, and I think about it, and I'm confronted with old photos and conversations. It's just really surreal to think that band and Adam and I are able to still do it. That was our intention. This is our intention.
Okay, hold on. Answer that and stay fashionable.
Yes.
91, this record comes out. So
go ahead.
We're going to get to that.
This is a little
For those,
notch that.
If you're listening to this and not watching, you got to check out the YouTube video so you can see some of the items I have on the center table here.
So that came out in 95.
Oh, that came out in 95?
Yeah.
Sorry. Of course it's 95.
I knew you knew
Van
that.
91, 95. Right. So what was the goal? Or were there none at that time? Did you say to each other and everyone that was involved at that time, guys, this is the plan?
Well, we always wanted to make music and release music. The goal with releasing our music always was to, first and foremost, really have a template for the live shows, because it was all about performing to us. It was that energy and that exchange and that community that meant the most to us. And to me, it still does. In addition, we knew that what we were doing was so precarious and just always on the verge of completely collapsing. And for years and years, something that no one cared about. Very, 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 very few people cared about until I can give you the time span on that. But certainly when we were putting out our first 7-inch in 92, 93, 94, it was when, so the band existed for between 91 and 90, the early 93 in Ukiah, California. But it was when I moved to Berkeley and the rest of the guys moved to Berkeley, and we started to play in the East Bay like every weekend, virtually. We were like the house band at 924 Gilman Street, and that's where we used to go see shows. And so that, I mean, that's I could talk about that forever, like trying to get a show at Gilman Street. And the first time we played there, it was such a big deal to us.
The first time you played there, did you get paid? Did it matter?
No. The first time we performed on that stage, we jumped on stage at a Rancid show in like the middle of the lineup with some band's equipment that I wish I knew the band, thank you, who allowed us to use their equipment and jump on stage and play like three or four songs unannounced to like 8 kids or something like that.
Oh,
yeah.
That was a Rancid headlining show?
Yeah, I believe it was. Yeah, I believe it was, or maybe Rancid wasn't even headlining the show at that point. I wish I knew. Someone does.
Didn't Tim work on the first album in some sort of way, or no?
So yeah, yes, and well, Tim came and hung out a couple times at the Art of Ears when we were recording it, and he did a vocal on Love Is a Many Splendid Thing, not a cover, our own song called Love Is a Many Splendid Thing, on a version that I don't think appears on the official full length. But I mean, to go back to answer your question,
yes.
In addition, we wanted a record of our existence, a literal record, which is why they're called records, because we thought any day now we weren't going to exist, because we wouldn't be able to sustain it for countless reasons. But we really found our home in the East Bay, and that's when I think of home. I honestly, even though Los Angeles really, really feels like home to me, when I think of where I grew up and where we came up, I mean, it's the East Bay, it's Oakland, and you know, it's really, my formative years were really, really there. Yeah, we built a really great community in between 93 and 95, but no one wanted to put it out a record. No one ever wants to put out an AFI record. There was this brief time where everyone wanted to put out an AFI record. You remember it well. In fact, I saw Rob. Do you know Rob Goldklang?
Yes, I do, from Warner Brothers.
He is the best. And I ran into Rob. I was reminded of you also. I ran into Rob at the Rufus Du Sol show.
Oh, that was just past weekend.
It was so fun. He saved me. He gave us wristbands to go in this area where it was fun instead of the area that felt like we were sitting here and watching Rufus Du Sol on your laptop.
Right.
But in that area, I saw Alessandro Ambrosia.
Oh, yes.
Which I believe the last time I saw Alessandro Ambrosia in the wild was with Stryker.
Yes. I hopped in your car.
Okay. So we started at the, this is an insane thing for public. We started at the Angels after party at Mood, right?
Yes.
And then where I want to know, so you hopped in my car.
Yes, you had a red car. I think it was.
I still have the red car.
You still have that red car?
I wish I did, covered in stickers.
Oh my God.
I wish I did. It was a 1983 Honda.
Yes.
There was once a rumor, when there were rumors like this about me, that I collect Hondas. And this rumor is based on me having owned three cars in my life. The first of which was an 83 Honda, the second of which was a 97 Honda, and the third of which is what I'm driving right now, which looks like it's been in a demolition derby, which is the Honda that DreamWorks bought me, which was not like here's a gift, but if it weren't for
because of the deal.
Of the deal, I was able to buy this 2000, and anyone could date it by what I just said, 2003 Honda.
Right.
But we got in the first Honda and drove to.
We went to like West LA area.
So, we were at like a reggae club, right? Or like
I don't
a
know if it was
dubstep club.
reggae
Where
club.
were we?
I know where it was, but I don't know what it was. It started off at a place called Mood.
Right.
We got in your car. 2 gentlemen that are brothers named the Chambers brothers were there. Eric and Brandon Chambers.
Okay.
They were great friends, I believe, with Alessandra.
Yes, because she was in
and the other angel.
She was in the orbit.
This sounds like, listen, I'm not a cool person. That night I felt cool.
There was this couple who wanted to take me home. There was this couple that just kept trying to. Do you remember that night?
I do.
I feel like we separated, and I had to make out with them so they'd stop.
And then did you end up going home with them?
No, I didn't want to, and I didn't have any obligation to.
I do remember being in your car and driving over there.
None of this happened to Rufus DeSoul the other night.
Damn.
But I digress, as I will. I mean, we can sit here for 20 hours and do this, but no one wanted to sign AFI. And our friend Screw 32 in the East Bay, who was the other band that claimed East Bay hardcore.
Okay.
Because we played melodic hardcore at a time where that just was not happening. I mean, it's not happening now. What was happening, if hardcore was happening in the East Bay, it was what then was referred to as emo, which everyone thought was a stupid word then, but it referred to very aggressive, very artful music, not pop punk with a bad haircut. Right. And so it was either that was the hardcore, or there was grindcore, or there was, the punk was heavily leaning crust, or very Lookout Records, which had like a 60s garage vibe to it, or the other thing, every opening band at those shows back then, if it wasn't what I just said, it was, they either were trying to sound exactly like Green Day, Jawbreaker, or Crimp Shrine. Oh. We were none of that.
Right.
So Lookout would not touch us. Lookout Records was like, no, we don't care about that. Everyone we
Did
tried.
That crush you though?
It made me sad that we really wanted to be on Lookout Records because we felt that was our community, but we couldn't get on Lookout Records. And all the labels. We have rejection letters from Sub Pop and from Rev and all, and Discord, of course. And but Screw 32, local musicians started a New Berkeley label and put out Screw 32 because he recognized what a great fan base they have. And Doug talked to them and said, you should put out AFI. And there was our first record. And we had a record. Yeah.
And then you made records in 96, 97, like 99. Like you guys just kept going. When Tom DeLonge is here, Blink-182 had a similar like record nonstop. And I asked him, was that too much for you looking back? And he thought about it. He's like, maybe it was. But I think for AFI as a fan, that was great for your band.
Oh, it was de rigueur.
It was like,
it was just how it went. Like it was just part of that world. All of bands back then did that. It was just a cycle, and it was write a record, try to somehow record it, try to get it out, and then try to play as many shows as we can or tour on it. And without Stormy Shepherd, do you know Stormy Shepherd?
That sounds familiar.
Stormy Shepherd is a booking agent, and she was our first champion. And she, at the time, booked, she's from Salt Lake. She was a hardcore girl. And she booked like Quicksand, and I think she booked Into Another, Richie's band, after Underdog. I don't know if you know those bands.
And is it in the East Bay then?
So she's in Salt Lake City,
okay,
but booking those New York bands, Rancid, Social Distortion, The Offspring.
Wow.
All prior. Well, Rancid was kind of immediately big, almost off the heels of the legendary Operation Ivy,
right.
And of course their prowess, their wonderful songwriting, of course. But that was before, mentioning The Offspring. That was before they had Smash, both literally and smashes.
10 million albums. These are the Smash album.
But
wow.
Stormy was the punk rocker that made tours happen. And I remember meeting her at Gilman Street in the snack bar and saying, will you book us? And she said, you need to tour a little bit first. And I'm like, okay, but if you're not booking us, this is gonna, just like everything else in life, we can't help you do it until you're already doing it. And so the Swinging Utters and I booked our first tour, the Swinging Utters in AFI. I think maybe it was Max and I who booked the tour, and we booked our first tour, and then our second tour, and then after that, Stormy picked us up, and that allowed us to really tour in a much smoother way in that it was more likely the venues would be there when we showed up, and it was more likely that, you know, we'd get $80 or
$80,
you know,
though.
or something for.
Wow.
I mean, you know,
It sounds like,
it's a long
and I'm
time.
learning this more and more every time we have a chat, that no matter what, this is what you were going to do.
It seems that way. I would hope so. People have always asked, what do you think you would be doing? And my response is always, it depends on what I would have been brave enough to do. I love acting, and I could see myself having gone into that, but that is a solo effort. So when you're embarking on a desperate mission, you know, which acting is, or the arts are, where if you're pursuing a life of art, not for commercial success, but in hopes of being able to continue a life of art, which unfortunately necessitates still feeding yourself basic human needs. And that's a push and pull that is very difficult. And as an actor, you're on your own, and I'm not a hustler. And with AFI,
I don't know, Davey. You're booking those shows early on, and you're listening to Stormy say, you guys got to play shows. Okay, we're going to play shows so you can help book us.
I'm a worker. I don't mean hustle and like hustle around the court. I mean hustler in the kind of unsavory sense.
I gotcha.
You know, I'm not a self-promoter. And I would need help, but if it weren't for that community. So acting doesn't have that community. Acting doesn't have this DIY community where everyone's helping each other and everyone knows each other and everyone wants the best for each other. Acting, you're on your own.
Right,
And it has nothing to do with DIY. I mean, you need that agent. You need that manager. You need to know people. And so that would have been something I would have liked to do, but I don't know if I would have been able to have the strength to say, fuck everything, I'm going to do this by myself. Whereas saying, fuck everything, we're going to do this.
Right.
You have a crew.
Right.
You have camaraderie, and you have a singular vision. And that vision for us was, let's rock.
And you stuck to your guns, and you did it the way that you wanted to do it.
We did. It was something we really needed to do, but you know, in the 10-year retrospective, in the 30-year retrospective, when thinking about the most that we've ever gotten press, of course, was on the biggest album in 2003. Actually, there was more press on the next record.
The Art of Drowning in 2000 or so.
Yeah.
Right?
But not many people, like, in looking back, like, that record was in the underground, had a relatively great deal of success. It sold 60,000 records, but at the time, other indie artists were selling 80, 100,000, records. So it was in that relation, but there wasn't any press around it. Like maybe Ted Stryker played the Days of the Phoenix once or twice, and Aaron Axelson
more than once or twice.
But
Aaron
no
Axelson,
one else across the country did. So there wasn't really any there weren't interviews. There were very, very few. So it wasn't until Sing the Sorrow that large amount of press began to happen.
That was crazy with Sing the Sorrow. Before we get to that,
okay.
And we've already been doing this almost 50 minutes. So
oh wow,
yeah.
Okay, let's get what you need before I talk you into 6 a.m.
Can I tell you what I thought about you before I met you?
Yeah.
And that leads to a question.
Yes.
I imagined you as someone who didn't want to do any interviews, didn't just kind of mean potentially. And then the first time we had a chat on air, I don't know if it was like 2000 or 2001, I was like beaming for weeks because it was just, I learned a lot and he just had a great energy.
Thanks. So it's interesting that you say that because that was the impression that our manager, we never had a manager, but when we decided to sign to a major label, we also knew that we needed management. And so that was an interest. I mean, it's, again, we could talk for hours. There's all sorts of interesting moments in that time, both very, 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 very stressful. And then of course, very exciting. But I do vividly remember John Silva saying, they want to do press. They like doing press. And the reason is because we never got to do it before. The thought of someone wanting to, you want to talk to us?
So it wasn't that you were against it or didn't want to talk to anybody.
No, no one wanted to talk to us.
Didn't have a chance to do it
No, no one wanted to talk to us.
No wonder it went so well.
Yeah, we were, I mean, this sounds ridiculous to say, but I mean, we were punks and we were playing punk. I mean, for a long time. And even when the music shifted away from punk, that was our community. And that was not the mainstream didn't care about that. They didn't care about the type of stuff we were doing. You know, and so of course there were zines, but there weren't even a lot of zines. You know, and so back to what you were saying, we did it the way we wanted to do it. You know, by the time we signed to a major label, that concept of scary major labels had really been debunked over and over and over again by many indie bands. But, you know, we learned from artists, so many artists before us, like, oh, you know, okay, well, here's what we're going to do. We're in such a great position at that time in, you know, 2002 or 2001, where all of these labels want to sign us for whatever reason. And how we'll figure it out, it'll be an easy choice, because the one who we believe when they say, if they say just do what you're going to do, that's the one. And if we get any of this, well, we want to do this with you, or we want you to do this or that, then, you know, fuck them. Easy decision. Every label we've met with, just do you. We don't want to fuck with you. We don't want to touch you. Just do it here. We just want to take what you do and let people hear it. And we're like, yep, that sounds great. But it was every label. So it was a pretty hard decision.
Wow.
Yeah.
And was there a bidding war between the labels?
I'm
not asking for numbers.
No,
but
that's a fucked up story, because we were being.
If you're uncomfortable doing it.
There was a bidding war to an extent, but it wasn't that. The major labels were put into a corner by the label that we were on, who had one record for us, and what seemed like a very, let's just say, as many artists will attest if they've experienced both, we learned that it is in fact the indie labels who smile at you and then stab you in the back.
Whoa.
The major labels are honest.
Damn, sorry about that.
We made it through. Here we are.
Yeah, 100%. Were you? It's because you had done so many shows and put out a lot of music and toured, and you did it the way you want. And then it went from you're doing no press to a lot of press. And then there's people who are considered mainstream. I think I'm a very mainstream guy who like, oh my God, who's this AFI band? And then I go back and listen to all these songs, and I was in from the beginning.
Man,
I
that's
heard
so
of you.
cool.
I was in from the beginning. I heard you. Were you personally ready for the avalanche of success and new people following you?
Oh yeah, it was
were.
great.
Really?
Yeah, it was. I mean, we've always wanted as many people to hear our music as possible, and that was the case. And we didn't know if we were going to successfully reach the amount of people we did, and we did. And have
You wanted
that,
to be as huge as possible.
sure, still do. You know, not at the cost of compromising.
Right.
Never
right,
have.
Of course.
That's never been the case, but we never had to. We were never confronted with that, and you know, DreamWorks did a wonderful job of providing us with the mechanisms to reach those people, and it was a lot of fun. As culture shifted and technology shifted, it got to be a little weird. Some of the things that I was uncomfortable with was as social media started to burgeon, and the need for photos of who is perceived to be a celebrity for the person's social media and some sort of like big game hunting. That didn't appeal to me because it made me feel like Mickey Mouse. But that was kind of later, and I often had conversations with people about it because I would refuse to take pictures because I was uncomfortable with it. And I'm like, I'll talk to you.
Yeah.
You want to talk? No, I don't want to talk to you. I want a photo with you. Well, I don't care about your Facebook. At the time, it was Facebook.
Yeah.
Like Facebook won before.
Maybe the MySpace.
I think
era
before
as
it was.
well.
I think it was like maybe it
when
went Facebook.
Friendster,
Makeout
MySpace.
Club. I was not on it. Friendster. I was not on it. Then wasn't there a blip? Oh, Facebook and MySpace on neither. They were concurrent, right?
I think it was MySpace first, then Facebook came.
So it was. Yeah, I don't care about your MySpace, but so that was kind of tough, but that stopped.
Yeah. Have you ever felt pressure as an artist, like when you go make December Underground and you're coming off all this success and now you have a major label and there's all these people, all these new eyeballs on you? Did you feel any sort of nervous stomach ache?
There's always that. There's always that pressure. Certainly there is more pressure when there's more people watching you. But we're always confronted with that that pressure to create something that, like I said, we feel happy with. And in order to feel happy with it, it has to be a progression for us. It has to be something fresh and new, because when we create something that is too familiar, it's boring. But then, of course, yeah, at that time, you know, with December Underground and what was going on with technology and music, there was industry pressure, especially with the shift away from rock at that time. And we were just about to,
Right.
you know, the club was very important then. And, you know, Jimmy Iovine was very focused on 50 Cent.
Mm-hmm.
So the pressure of, which was beyond our control, the pressure was making sure we still have the attention of the people that are responsible for getting the attention of the fans.
Gotcha.
Yeah, which now is a very interesting circumstance. How to get people's attention, Stryker? How are you doing it?
What is the way to get people's
knows?
attention? Is it
Who
in
knows?
10 seconds, or can you get people's
This is
attention
too
to
long.
pay attention in 3 minutes and 45 seconds?
We have gone too long. Cut this into 22 seconds. Yeah.
I mean, do you think people still have the patience to absorb 10 songs at a time, or do you need to release 2 here, 4 there, 1 here, 4 more in 6 months from now?
I think some people do. Some people certainly do appreciate the long format play, but not everyone. So as far as getting people's attention, I think, yes, I think if you want people's attention, the best way to do about it is little bits of information.
Right.
Content, if
Yes.
you will. But then there are some of those people who will consume that and desire more. And there are some people who won't, who may appreciate that little bit of information for whatever period of time, and that's it. But that's the case. It's always been that way. I mean, when you look at radio, you look at people who just like a song, and maybe that song makes them go to a show once or twice or 10 times, and that's it.
Right.
Or, you know, it depends on.
And hopefully, and what happened with me, with you guys, it was one song led me to go back and listen to all these other songs. And then finding out the Offspring covered one of your songs, Total Immortal.
Oh, yeah, that was wild.
I like your video for that song.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, we were talking
about
about that video.
Who was?
Recently? Well, I guess I was writing about that video because there was a on the AFI media, a still or clips of that video was posted, and I gave a little commentary about my memories of filming it. And our friend Brent, there wouldn't have been a video. I talk about this in the post, or I write about this in the post, not the New York Post. That'd be cool though.
Where was this?
This was on all of AFI's socials.
Okay. All right.
And so there wouldn't have been a video for that song if it weren't for our friend Brent, who was a videographer, and he really loved the EP, and he wanted to make a video for us for free. And as I talk about, the label didn't want to do that EP at all. They didn't want to do it at all. I remember Jade and I were sitting up in the kind of squat that we lived in, one of the notorious frat houses that AFI lived in. There were 2. And I said, hey, this is what it was like back then. Let's do an EP for Halloween. And he was like, okay, cool. And we wrote the songs, and we wrote like those 2 songs that are originals, and then we put
Misfits? No.
I'm sorry, there's 3 originals on it. There is a Misfit song on it, and then are there?
I think there's 3 other songs.
3 originals. Yeah. And we talked to the label about it, and they were like dragging their feet. They didn't want to do it. They didn't want to do it, and they finally agreed to do it, but they didn't want to release a CD. So this was at a time when that's what people listened to music on. We wanted to release vinyl because that's what we grew up with. We wanted to release 7 inches, but they only wanted to release a limited amount of the vinyl.
Okay.
It was probably 1,000, and we're like, okay, and we couldn't talk them into doing a CD. And certainly we didn't have a video budget. And so Brent made that video, and he's like, I'll have you walk through this this very sacred to the Oakland community, East Bay community cemetery. It's this very beautiful property that people jog through and people walk through at the end of Piedmont in Oakland. And the first Green Day record is shot there. The cover of that record is underneath a tree that's in that cemetery.
Yeah.
And we kind of paraded about the cemetery, and we went to our friend Chris Duncan, our friend Jamie Riley asked Chris Duncan if we could shoot in his house. He's a fine artist, a beautiful painter. Brent went on to be a doctor, and I went on to, wear cutoff gloves and talk to Stryker.
Is this your low point of your career right now?
By no means. Wow. No. If we're here, if we just stop right here, this is good enough for me.
Oh man, I'm having such a good time. We're an hour into
I'm
this.
sorry.
There's a million other things that I want to. Can I ask you 6 more things?
What time is it?
I have it's past my bedtime. I'll tell you that. Do you know that I go to bed at 9 o'clock at night?
Is it really 7:30?
Yeah, it's 7:30.
Okay, good. That's what I thought. I was like, it can't be.
Okay, 6:30.
You can have me as Stryker. I don't have to leave here till 7:30.
Okay, all right. So 7:30.
What as much as you want.
Are you doing anything good after this?
I am. I'm going to have a great dinner at a wonderful vegan Italian spot called Pura Vita, with some really good friends. All of which are artists. My friend Anthony Anzaldo, who is in Cold Cave and Ceremony, and his wife Heather, who is an acclaimed, talented tattoo artist and painter. My friend Max, who is the mayor of all things pop culture, finger on the pulse, graphic designer. And we're going to this great. It was a great Italian spot. The chef who owns it is from Queens, I believe. Yeah, she's from Queens, and she's an Italian, and so she makes all this really traditional East Coast lean Italian food, which means a lot to me because that's what I grew up.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Eating. So yeah, food.
Did you enjoy the Dreamcar experience?
Oh, so much.
Oh, you did?
Oh, it was Stryker. It was so fun. I love that record so much.
You do?
Yeah, I love that. I love that record. I wish we had been able to tour on it even more, and we could.
The Coachella performance was
Thank you.
Good.
Thank you. I feel like that was our first show. Do you know?
I don't know if it was.
There could be a fact check on this. I think initially it was going to be our first show, but we may have booked a couple of smaller shows around it to warm us up a little bit to perform that. And what a great experience, first of all, to have the opportunity to play Coachella again, being men of our age with guitars.
That's right.
Is rare.
Not just a turntable or a computer.
Very rare.
You, Tony, Tom, and Adrian.
Yes. It's such a privilege. And we had, when we performed the first day we performed of the 2 weekends, I think maybe there were 2 songs released, maybe 3. And by the second weekend, there were 3 songs released, and the tent filled up.
Yeah.
People came and reacted and moved and applauded. It was really great. It was so fun.
It was 4 rock stars on stage who made great songs.
Thank you.
And everyone just wanted to look and be a part of it. Do you think, give me on a scale of 0% to 100%, that you'll make another song with those guys?
50%?
50%. I would take that.
I would love to.
Do they know that you'd love to?
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, it's circumstantial. Like, unfortunately, the Dreamcar record, for as much as we love it and for as hard as Sony tried and pushed it, was a commercial disaster. And that really affects the creation of music.
But people were going to the shows that you were playing.
Not a lot of people were going to the shows. In California, a lot of people were going to the shows.
But as far as LA like bubble, California bubble, where like all the people thankfully
we're in this. Thankfully, we're in this LA bubble. Yeah, it's a great bubble to be in.
The vibe was
a different
incredible.
Community. It was so fun.
Dreamcar songs. I don't know if I told you that before, but
Stryker,
I do.
Thank you. I couldn't be happier with that record. It was so fun to write and create and to track and to perform. My voice is in its strongest place in that record, and I got to do things that I normally don't do in other projects. It was such a great time.
Here's my worst interview question of all time. I just thought of it 4 seconds ago. F, marry, kill Tony, Tom, and Adrian.
I can't do absolutely not. I will not participate. I decline.
Okay, moving on. I knew
I'll fuck them all.
Okay, good. That's a great answer.
I'll fuck every single one of those guys.
I'm turning red right now.
And then kill myself, because where do you go from there?
Oh my God. Okay, the Bodies tours, we get into 2022, AFI. That's 100%. huge tour happening, right?
Yeah, I'm very excited. I'm very excited to. Again, speaking of records, I love Bodies. I'm just again so happy with it. It is at right now. It was and has been my favorite AFI record.
That's your favorite AFI
Yeah,
record?
like by far. And I really look forward to getting out there and playing some of those songs. In addition to getting out there and playing other AFI songs and performing with AFI, I look forward to it. It's
Do you love being on the road?
not really. I love performing. It's tough. Like I have a much better experience on the road if I don't harm my voice. And the way I perform and the way that I've been performing my whole life, I have instilled myself with bad habits that I'm continuously trying to shake vocally. I don't mean recreationally.
Right.
So with the rigor of travel, any singer will tell you this, it's hard to maintain your voice. If I can maintain my voice, I'm just in heaven, as they'd say. They wouldn't have me, but if I were there, I would be with flawless vocals. So that's really fun. But oftentimes we're out for long periods of time. I get these stupid sinus infections, and it's traumatizing to me because despite how accepting and supportive the audience is when I'm not at my peak, I still feel that I'm robbing them, that I'm not doing what I came to do, and I feel that I'm just failing my bandmates and I'm failing the audience. It's yeah. So if that's not happening, I fucking love it. But I also love being home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think it's going to be hard to get on the road since you've been at home so much the last 2 years?
I don't think so. I'm looking forward to doing it. And again, just like rehearsing Blaqk Audio songs, I'm so used to being on the road, and I've been traveling so much that there's a muscle memory to it, and I just get back into the flow. There was a period of time where, as you pointed out, for a huge amount of AFI's existence, we were always on tour. We would tour for like a year in a van, and it got to the point where I was more uncomfortable off tour. I would have social anxiety, not crippling, but it was difficult to communicate with people because I'd only been communicating with the same 6, 7, 8 people every day, with the exception of here or there someone else. It'll be easy to go back on tour.
Do you remember when we saw each other at 7-Eleven that one night?
I was a mess. Do you remember what a disaster I was?
I do.
You know what's interesting is that
Can I share what happened? No, go ahead.
Well, did you comfort me? I'm sure you did. Seeing you, I
were
probably
so
cried.
Sad. I'm like, Davey, what's wrong, man? Randomly at 7-Eleven, you get to run into Davey Havok in L.A.
And I'm just a blue. I'm a color of a shade of blue.
Yeah.
It's interesting that that night of the party that we went to, that night led to that night.
Oh, it did?
10 years later.
Yeah, 10 years later.
12 years later or whatever. Isn't that interesting?
Yes.
But it also led to this night.
Yeah.
Which is joyous. Speaking of joyous events.
And then you're going to leave here in a few minutes.
I don't want to go.
Good. Please don't go.
I don't want to go.
Okay, for those listening and not watching, you have to go watch this part of the interview on YouTube. There's a cereal box in the counter.
So this is part of a large retrospective of merchandise and memorabilia that we're creating in celebration of the 30 years of AFI. And anyone who was around for the first record, who has gone back and taken that dive into the first record, will probably know what this is referencing. There is one of my lesser moments of lyrical prowess exhibited in a song called Cereal Wars.
Okay.
On this record, which I was talking about it on the radio show I co-host on SiriusXM Volume the other day, and our producer threw on the song. And let me tell you, it is an assault on the ears to hear me going. But song is called Cereal Wars, and the song ends with the line, "Give me sugar, not nuts and twigs. Do I look like a fucking squirrel to you?" So we have created for your enjoyment this Squirrel Crunch box.
I love that. That's new merch that is references
referential,
30
yeah.
years of AFI. That's
Here's the
great.
best part.
Yeah.
So there's not cereal in it. There is not, in fact, sugar cereal in it, nor healthful cereal in it. But there is a T-shirt in here that is designed by Skinhead Rob,
Oh yeah, of course.
a dear friend
Yep.
who makes absolutely wonderful art. And being that he was part of AFI for all of those years, created the "I want a mohawk, but mom won't let me get one"
Oh my god.
shirt,
That's
which
great.
there never was a shirt. I suppose if there are hits on that record, insular hits for the community, Mohawk was one of them that people wanted to hear. It's about my little brother. It's about my then little brother, my now younger brother,
Right.
who is a grown up. But here's this great shirt that comes in the box.
This is new merch here.
Yeah, it's
and
new
I know
merch.
new AFI merch has been released and is going
Lots
to be
of it.
released. Yeah.
Lots of this for the really fun.
Skinhead Rob, shout out on the design.
He
That's
does
so
he
good.
does
Whose idea
great
was
art.
to put it in the cereal box?
Well, initially I had come up with the idea. Oh, I'm stealing Adam's idea. Am I stealing Adam's idea? Let's call it Adam's idea. I think the cereal box was Adam's idea, and we were hoping to get cereal in it, but it's difficult to do for countless reasons.
Yeah.
It would have to be vegan. I would actually feel strange about giving people sugar and not nuts and twigs. It was difficult. So then I think Samantha and Kristen at management had the idea of putting a T-shirt in it, and so we wanted the T-shirt to also reference the album that Cereal Wars is on, and there you have it. So this is not a book, but it ties in. Well, when Stryker asked for me to bring things to display, unfortunately, I do not have a direct connection to Esteban Oriol, who is one of LA's finest photographers. I would love to be shot by him, but I have never been. In this, I have protected a lot of artwork, which I figured I was going to display. This, speaking of Skinhead Rob, there is a series of drawings that are hard to explain, but I will do my best. That's me.
Oh wow.
So there are hundreds of these drawings by Skinhead Rob of me that are
in hell.
satire. There's inside jokes. It is both loving homage and scathing attack on me, making fun of me, and they're wonderful. And so I was going to bring these to display while we were doing the interview.
I'm
and
sorry
so
we didn't get them out earlier.
so yeah, what's going on there? Some people can really understand, but only Rob understands all of them in their entirety. But I usually come out at night. I'm often wearing these wickle pickers, which I don't own and never have owned. But he'll nod to things I do wear, like that really looks like Dries Van Noten pants. When I first saw that, my reaction was, if you listen closely in the night, sometimes you can hear him. So that's me skateboarding through Hollywood, obviously, in the middle of the night, juggling and playing basketball. I do neither of those things.
Skateboard though, yes.
I no longer, I couldn't honestly say I still skateboard. And there was a moment where I very, very consciously gave up skateboarding. Yeah, I was on, back to the interview, but I was on, there was this, so Jim Thiebaud, who is a true punk rocker, who was in the Bones Brigade. He had this great board with the Klansman on a noose.
Yes.
So that was Jim, and he started Real Skateboards. Aren't they great? I mean, you'll die over these. But he built a ramp in Oakland for his friends to skate. So I would go there and roll around on the ramp, which was well beyond my skill set. And there were pro skaters there just shredding. And Billy Joe would go, and me and Billy would kind of like, they'd kind of let the kids kind of get on there. And it was 1997 when I had the epiphany, I need to stop doing this. I'm not good at this, and I will hurt myself. And if I hurt myself doing this, I won't be able to do what I need to be doing on stage and what I'd rather be doing. If I harm myself and compromise this tour that I'm about to go on, that I'm always on, I'll be very upset. And I said, I need to stop this. And it was like, yeah, it was 19.
You stopped for the band.
I stopped for the band.
You stopped for the
I
band.
stopped everything for the band. Yeah.
And look what you've done, man. You have
It was the right
created-
choice. I loved skateboarding, but
Yeah.
I don't have, I'm not entirely fragile, but what it takes to be a professional skater is an utter fearlessness of injury. And I do not have an utter fearlessness of injury. Not utter.
On stage, you go bananas.
Right. But
I like when you have the mic cord. And
I'm mostly in
love
control.
that.
I harm
Yeah.
myself on stage, not infrequently, but I'm generally in control of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna wrap it right there.
Let's wrap.
It's been a long hangout.
It's
A lot
been
of
great.
information.
It's been great.
Davey, I think you do, but I hope you appreciate how your art, everything you have done over all these years, has affected so many people in a positive way.
I do. It's unbelievable.
Okay, good. I'm
It's
glad
unbelievable.
You know.
It's surreal. It's surreal because I would be doing this no matter what, whether anyone was listening, and the fact that there are people listening and they do care means everything.
Good.
It means everything.
I'm glad you know.
And I appreciate it, and I appreciate you.
I appreciate you. Thanks for being so gracious. AFI, the Bodies Tour in 2022. Of course, New Year's Eve, Blaqk Audio. There's a ton of music that you should and could digest from this man and all his projects over the years. For Davey Havok, I am Stryker. That's been our show. Happy snuggles. Bye-bye. Hope you enjoyed. Now hit that subscribe button. And for more Tuna on Toast, listen wherever you get your podcasts.